All set. There we go. Recording has started. So hi everyone. It is so great to get together again for our second event with our Boston Workfront User Group. Thank you all for RSVPing. I know set these up a good long while ago so that you had plenty of time to plan and hopefully not a packed calendar already, and you've been able to hold this time for us over the lunch hour if you're joining from the East Coast, which with most of us in the Boston area probably are. We have a pretty brief agenda today. I know we had put out a call for folks to do a bit of show and tell, and we don't have folks joining to do that. So Alicia and I have decided that we will show and tell in hopes of inspiring you to join with us in the future, but also are hoping that maybe we'll have a bit of questions and hear a few things that are common themes pop up amongst us all. And then what we're planning on doing is working with our friends over at Adobe to help either bring in an expert who can help talk to some of those topics, or see who amongst us may be able to speak more closely to those in coming events, and then we can plan for one later here in the fall. So we can jump right on in. As always, as you just all saw, these groups are always recorded. That allows for us to be able to send the recording out to folks after the fact. So we are recording, and Adobe does always ask us to just share as a reminder that we're abiding by our user group code of contact and letting you know that we are recording, and it'll be posted to our channels. And if you do not want to record or participate in this session, you can watch the recording at a later time. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to Alicia or myself, and we'd be happy to give you a little bit more information about that. And just a quick reminder of our house rules. We go over these at the top of every call. These are user-focused and safe spaces, and we're asking that there's no self-promotion or pitching of any kind. That's not allowed. Please don't reach out to folks outside of our user groups without their consent. If anything is shared, please don't use that without consent as well. So that's kind of important around these show and tell style meetings that we're having. If we're sharing any kind of information, anything feels proprietary, please refrain from utilizing that in any way, unless you reach out directly to us. And I know I for one am usually more than happy to either give you a version of it that you can use yourself, or follow back up with you later and give you something that would be able to be utilized in your case. One thing we noticed coming out of our last meeting, we have a lot of people who join us for these, and we've had lots of people. I think we had over 20 people RSVP for this event today, even though I know we're a little bit shorter than that right now. And we, had more than a dozen folks RSVP for this week's upcoming in-person event. But I would love for you all to take a moment and connect with the chapter. If you've not done that, you can scan the QR code on the screen right now and then click join to join the chapter. And that allows you to get automatic notifications. We are not spamming you. We are not sending a lot of emails, but it does send you a reminder anytime we send out reminders about RSVPing for events. You won't get those notifications for events if you are not signed up, unless we send a standalone email. So this is really the best way to stay informed. Adobe does from time to time also use that to send out invites for larger events that are being hosted. So things like the recent Mega WUG, et cetera, and any events that we as a chapter are co-hosting. So really, really helpful if you just want to stay connected and stay informed. Please take care of that. And if you have any questions or need to do that after today's call, you can reach out to either one of us and we can get you the link. The Adobe's asked us for doing a bit of reviews. So feel free to also, if you love surveys and you love QR codes after signing up, feel free to do a quick review and let Adobe know what you think of Workfront. There have been a lot in the Q3 release, a lot of new features rolled out. I logged back on after an extended period of time away today, and I saw that the request section has been refreshed, and I'm looking forward to sending out a message to our requesters and reviewers later this week to remind them of the refreshed experience. So I have found so far that Adobe is listening and taking our things into consideration. Alicia, anything to add around the surveying or any recent releases?
No, I think you covered it.
Awesome. So we're going to just jump right in today into our show and tell. Before we do, I wanted to see, do we have any new folks joining? Any new folks that haven't been on our first call, haven't been part of the group? And if so, do you want to do a quick hello if you would be interested in doing that?
Hi, I can. I'm Tina.
Tina, welcome.
Welcome. Hello. Oh, there's my camera. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong screen. Hi, everybody. Tina Stiles. I'm from Takeda Pharmaceuticals. We started using Adobe Workfront in our commercial learning and development space in April, and have just started to get involved in user groups and the Experience League and finding resources now that we are on our own.
Welcome. Welcome aboard. Love a new, fresh instance.
New meat, fresh meat. What do they say?
Tina, and you were located in the Boston area?
We have offices in Kendall Square and Lexington.
Nice.
Well, welcome. Happy to have you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Anyone fresh and new to the team? So lots of returners. That's a good sign. It's good.
Yeah. I'm looking through the list and I feel like I recognize most of the names from the last time. So
Same. It's good to see you all again. So we can jump in. Our goal had been, coming on the last call, is really just understanding. I think we're all probably at different places in our journeys. Obviously, some brand new instances, some folks who have been using the tool across lots of different organizations. But this is the opportunity for us to all share a bit about how we're using Workfront, sharing some tips, sharing some requests for things that they need some help with. Something I think that I often am digging across Experience League or posting questions out or reaching out to engineering to give me a hand. So our goal was to kind of crowdsource a bit of this information and then also understand where are some of those common themes that we've got, so we can all share our best practices and then maybe bring in some expertise where it makes the most sense for us to do that too. So we are going to jump into some show and tell. Your co-group leads are going to be the first to show and tell today, so bear with us. So first I can kick off. For those, all of one person who's new, but just as a reminder, I am over at Fidelity Investments, based out of our Merrimack office, but also our Boston office. And I am the system admin on our creative solutions team, which is a team of creatives that manages a majority internal creative production, but also some external. For our team, we use it as our primary project management tool, and that's where we traffic all of our intake of requests. So we use it really in three big ways. It's our intake system. So we have over 600 users. Most of those users are requesters and reviewers. But it is our project management tool, managing across that team of a little over just under 30 creatives across both user experience and web design, more traditional graphic design and multimedia design, as well as video production and animation. So we think big things that we use, and I'll get to that in my tips, are custom templates. Every type of deliverable the team produces has a custom template that's associated with it. And they track all of their projects. And that leads into the third major way we're utilizing it, really our source of record. We have it as the single source of truth. We do use a lot of other systems. We're in the process of finalizing our digital media library and our digital asset manager. So something internally facing for our teams to keep final files, but also to distribute those final files out to the end users, but also to the full company. But Workfront really is kind of the hub that ties it all together, where we have the initial request. We have the initial requests. We have the final files linked up wherever they live on our digital asset library. And then we also have all of the notes along the way. So everything from consultations, everything, little updates, project changes. We really look back at that as the source of truth. For our tips, my big 3 tips, like I said, around our project management use case, it's really that customization of templates. This is something that early on, when we were scoping out which project tool to go or project management tool to go with, as we were considering Adobe Workfront amongst others, it was the ability to create those custom templates. In our previous project management tool, we didn't really have that. Everything was very simplified. This allowed for us to really get into the nitty gritty and provide a level of customization, which gave a bit of uniformity across the way that projects were getting done, so that you didn't have certain project owners, having an intake call, others remembering to set up a project file at the beginning, certain people doing multiple rounds of reviews while others were doing none. So this allowed for a bit of standardization in our process, which has really been helpful. It also allows for us to really finesse the steps to each type of deliverable. When we're doing, a 75-page report that's going externally out to customers and clients, that obviously has a few different steps than perhaps a full service video that we're producing with an executive, or, a series of social graphics that we're producing. So those customized templates really help us hone in just exactly what are the steps to getting work done without having to do a lot of tweaking. It also helps us to, we're a team that time tracks full time year round, not just when we're doing kind of case, but like time studies. So it allows us to also build in the typical time for each of those steps to get completed, so that we're really using capacity planning to the best of our abilities, and using the workload balancer tool really, really well too. Reports for recurring needs. Over the course of the first year that we were in our tool, we started kind of seeing what are those reports. And while I thought, we'd want to report on the number of projects people were doing quarterly, or the types of deliverables we were producing, all those reports are helpful. But we realized that there were actually some other things that were really important. I needed to create reports to be able to see, on any given month, we have about 150 to 200 projects being completed, with about 2,000 to 2,500 in a year. I was finding that I couldn't keep track across all the projects when we had tasks going overdue, or specific tasks that were in each project, that maybe we needed to be getting something from a business partner to kick the project off. So it was those types of things that I was realizing were outstanding in a lot of our projects, that we were able to create custom reports that was pulling all that information from across the different project types, and would give me the opportunity to very at a glance see and be able to follow up with those individual project owners. And then also to enable that all of our project owners had the ability to access those reports, and then also use them in their daily work too, to be able to have just a greater insight across the work that they're doing. The final tip, I kind of alluded to this, is timesheets and our time tracking. We do time track all of the time. This is like much to the chagrin of some of our team members. I think they'd prefer not to, but what this has allowed for us to do is show the value of the team. I mentioned we are mostly internally focused. So we don't necessarily bill, but what we've done is created essentially user rates for our working team that are aligned to some of the bigger contractors or bigger external firms that we work with as a company, and assign a dollar value to their hourly rate, so that we're essentially functioning as an in-house agency with like a billable rate to show just cost savings to the company, as well as to show value of final projects. But the timesheets and time tracking also allow for us to make some arguments around additional resources that we may need, or help when sometimes that, maybe there's downsizing being considered, or expansions of teams, or trying to understand about different workloads that can be taken on. So having the ability to pull that year over year has been really advantageous for us as an organization and as a team that supports a lot of work and a lot of different kind of work as time goes on. My 3 things, I think this could have been a list of 33 things, but I did have to narrow it down to 3 things that I'm looking for some help with. And I think maybe, Alicia, we'll have you go through your show and tell, and then maybe we come back to these things that we need help with, and we can kind of get some questions answered from across the group. Any and all tips with Workload Balancer, I would love them. I feel like I run into a different problem every other week, where I have all my filters set up in such a way that I'm excluding completed work, or I'm excluding projects that have been marked on hold, and somehow a fraction of that time starts to show up, and I have to figure out what's going on. So I think that's something that I often find that I'm kicking around just some confusion in my head, and I'm reaching out to Adobe for some help. Um, Admin console and proof tips. I think with Adobe, with Workfront being something that had been bought up, and then I think some of the constant evolution with the tool, we found a point last year where all of a sudden it very quickly became apparent that everybody should be added through admin console. And when we set up our instance, that wasn't necessarily ever communicated to us. So we realized that we were not, our system hygiene was a little wonky with regards to that. And then you can also add and remove users directly from the proofing tools. So there was another place that you could end up with duplicative records. So again, any tips along that? And that leads into my next one, which is really just around like good practice and maintenance and system hygiene, things that you all are doing. I thought I was being really smart a quarter ago, and I was deactivating some non-frequent end users that were maybe prior reviewer and requesters. And then I would realize later that those folks needed to be reactivated in our instance. And it was a matter of the work that they were doing for us was maybe only done twice a year. And yeah, they looked inactive the quarter before, but they were coming up on the quarter where they'd be active with us again. So just any tips that you all might have for keeping your systems, nice and squeaky clean. I'd love to hear those. Me to kick it on over to you, Alicia.
Yeah. And then just as a reminder to echo what Jolyn said at the beginning, obviously, I know everybody's super busy. We would love to get other people kind of talking. So like for future events, I know we sent out a survey to see if anybody was interested in it. I'm going to say the survey is still open. So if anybody is interested in potentially doing something like what we're doing today for future events, please go ahead and fill out the survey still, and we can reach out to you. And if we get more people that are interested in doing this, we can kind of include these like scattered throughout our event. So just as a call out, it doesn't take that long. It's not a huge time commitment, but obviously I know public speaking is not always everybody's favorite thing to do. But yeah. So yeah, I'm Alicia. As a reminder to everybody, I work at Qualcomm. And I'm going to talk about content supply chain, which is kind of a new endeavor that I'm currently working on. So I figure it's a little bit more prevalent to my current work as opposed to what we're only doing with the system today, although it does integrate the two. And I'm just going to kind of call this out. If anybody else on this call is also either implementing a content supply chain or has implemented one, or if their company is thinking about it, I would love to know. So if you want to throw it in the chat and just say like, yeah, I am. I'm just would be super interested to see like how many other companies are doing this. When we've been working with Adobe and asking to kind of talk to other clients, it's a little like about potentially who have done content supply chains. It doesn't seem like it's super common in like the full scale that we're trying to integrate. So I would just be interested to know. Okay, so to kick it off, currently, Qualcomm, we use Workfront in a couple of different ways. We actually have 3 active instances. Qualcomm is it's a wireless technologies company, so it's a very R&D driven company. We have 1.5 million engineers, so they have their own Workfront instance that we don't even touch. I don't even know what they do with it, but they do something with it, engineering wise. And then in marketing, we have 2 instances that we're currently trying to roll into one. So about 5 years ago, we implemented a Workfront instance for brand and legal approvals combined into one workflow, which was a giant feat. And it's something that I rolled out. I don't know if anybody else has this issue, but before things go out the door, I wouldn't even necessarily call it an issue, but depends on, I guess, who you ask. But before things go out the door, they have to get brand sign off and they have to get legal trademark sign off. And before we had Workfront, everything was done like over email. People didn't know like who in legal they should be sending things to because we have different lawyers for all of the different departments. So this was a way to kind of create one flow of like, hey, like fill out this request form like in Workfront. You select like I'm submitting something for like compute, and this is what it is. And then on the back end, we automated, okay, it has to go to this brand person, it has to go to this lawyer and this trademarks person. And so we automated that workflow, which everybody didn't like the change, but now people love it because it makes things a lot easier and quicker. And now what we're doing is we have this other Workfront instance that's for internal project tracking, and we're combining the two things. And then on top of that, I am taking my digital asset management tool, which is currently housed somewhere else, and rebuilding it in AEM so that Workfront will now integrate into AEM. And then in the future, it will kind of connect to our other tools that we use, hence creating the content supply chain. So super deep in that right now, but yeah, it's definitely like a huge feat, but in the end it's going to be a huge process change for everybody, but it's going to really be beneficial because it's just going to streamline the whole process, and it's all going to center around Workfront. All of like the metadata for assets is going to be entered in Workfront. Terms of use that pop up on our digital asset management tool are going to be in Workfront. Everything is just going to be in Workfront, and hopefully work as smoothly as we are all hoping it to work. As I've been going through this and obviously working on the one Workfront instance and creating this new content supply chain Workfront like mega instance, definitely have a lot of tips. As you can see, I my last bullet point, I think I listed like 10 in the one because I have more than 3. Collaboration and governance is so huge. And if anybody on this call was at the Mega WUG event, we had like a big conversation point was around governance, and just collaboration and change management. Being like for the Workfront instance that we currently have, that's brand and legal approvals, collaborating like with legal, like having brand and legal coming together as a united force and being like, this is what we're doing. Like the collaboration there and having multiple teams involved really goes a long way, I would say, in terms of if you're trying to implement something new. Obviously the customization and adaptation of Workfront is super helpful, and just making sure that you're really customizing it to like what people need is also super helpful. Being like, hey, we're making it like this, and it's gonna make it your life easier because of X, Y, and Z. It's just really helpful in terms of adaption and adoption. Leadership buy-in, that's always a huge one. Like if leadership is on board and they're promoting it too, like then everybody just knows that they have to do it. ROI, doing lots of surveys. I'm doing so many surveys, and I know I just talked about us doing a survey here. Like survey tools like are your best friend, because if you have data and you can say like, look, like this is like these are the results we're getting, this is what people are saying, it can also help like change how you or influence how you're changing things or not changing things. And then also like if you have people who are like, I don't think this actually works, you can run a survey and say, look, we're saving you like a day and a half of review time by using this tool. So just being able to kind of run reports, do surveys, always optimizing. That's my tips. What I need help with, I mean, I feel like I do as much as I can for change management, but I'm always like eager to hear what other people do for change management, just because nobody likes change. I don't even like change. Like, so it's hard. Like people don't like to change what they're doing. So I love hearing like new ideas of what people are doing to help with adoption. External user interface. This is kind of something that we've been struggling with. So with our brand and legal approvals, we actually have it open. It's not just for internal. We have our external partners using it as well, like if we have co-marketing activities. And one thing that I have kind of come up short with is that the Workfront interface like doesn't have a ton of customization in terms of like when we have external users coming in. So I'm just curious if anybody else has had any luck with this or any workarounds, or just kind of seeing if other people use it externally too, as well as internally. And then my biggest thing is, I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but Fusion is obviously very complicated. We usually end up having to get outside Fusion developers to help us. And I'm just curious, like what other people have done, if it's always just getting like an outside expert or hiring somebody specifically that knows Fusion. So yeah, and I feel like depending on what the appetite is for Fusion or understanding it, like that might be an area too of like maybe down the line we can bring in a Fusion expert to kind of talk to this group too. So yeah, that's what we got going on in a nutshell. And yeah, that's all I got for today. So I think we can open it up. If anybody has any questions or comments, yeah, I would love to hear what people have to say. I'm just seeing that the chat has.
Yeah, it looks like Lindsay actually whipped up a chat, or whipped up rather a deck or a slide to share with another show and tell. So I don't know if we want to turn it over to Lindsay quick, and then we can run through maybe any feedback, questions, thoughts that popped up. Would
That would
love
be
that.
I don't have my screen share button is grayed out.
Hold on, let me change you to a moderator, and I think
awesome.
that should allow you to do it. All right, you are now a moderator, and let me stop sharing. And there you go. You should have the ability to do that now. Let us know and see if that lets you. Send her a quick note in the chat. Anyone in the meantime while we're waiting for Lindsay to share?
I didn't realize that it had muted me.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it took you all the way away.
Wow. It is asking for me to restart everything, and so I'll just talk through it.
Perfect.
You guys remember the 3 blocks. So
Yeah.
how we use Workfront, it's primarily global marketing. I do have some smaller groups that are using the system, and I'm trying to evangelize and grow more, but we use it for mostly marketing intake and project management, creative resource management, lots of document review, especially for marketing and creative review, medical review, and legal review. Proof, the thing we can't live with or without. My 3, I don't know, random tips of the day, because I mean, I guess they're big ones, but so many tips. Maintain a roadmap. And I think that, there are ways to set up your system that enable you to do that. But of course, one of the primary ways to do that is to, as an admin, track everything you do in Workfront, because that's about showcasing what you're doing, what you need to do, what you're being asked to do, what you can't do. And the second tip there is use custom forms, and those to optimize reporting, but also I find those custom forms with just a little bit of lift are really helpful for my roadmap. But custom forms are also a great way to kind of hack the system. If you can't find a way for Workfront to do something the way you want it to, custom forms are beautiful. And then I would say, as you're working in the system, be intentional about change and think about how you manage that. I have a tendency, I like to go in and just be like, it's a mess, I'll just fix it right now. I've messed up a lot of things that way. So I think it's one reason I like getting together with folks like this, is because we can all share our mistakes. But I do think, having a plan for communicating about things, interrogating the why of what you're changing, but also being able to equip yourself with, a case for what you're doing, so that if people come at you, for example, saying like, I don't want to do that, or I do want to do that, you can drill into that and say like, how is this going to serve us, for better, for worse, or somewhere in between? And what do we need to do to accommodate that? Things I need help with. Some of this is in some respects about sitting down and just doing it, but I'm always looking for more ways to showcase what I'm doing as an admin. So, key performance indicators, ways to measure my work, whether it's how much time I'm wasting because we don't have free Fusion, or making a case for giving me help. And then related to that, really getting deep into a cost benefit analysis for Fusion. I know both of those things are related. Do I have a third thing? I couldn't come up with a third thing off the top of my head, but here we are. So that's it.
Great, Lindsay. Thank you for sharing.
Welcome.
So I know we've gone through now like 3 different use cases, 3 different how we're using it, some tips, and what we need help with. Anything anyone wants to share, anything that you heard that we're looking for help with that you're like, yes, I am the expert. I have great feedback to share. I have something you can implement today. Virginia, let's hear it.
Well, actually, I just had a question.
Yeah.
for Alicia. So you saw in the chat, my team is looking into just like totally revamping they're exploring other tools, but I think they're going to land on keeping Workfront and then just kind of refreshing the instance probably pretty holistically because we're using it very sparingly right now. But the hope is to bring our content team in. Have you been doing this all internally, or how did you get started? I guess is my question. Did you or someone on the team have experience kind of setting up that content supply chain from a past company or something, or did you bring like Adobe in as a resource?
We did bring Adobe in as a consulting service. I also have a different consulting service that I use for my current brand portal. I would say it would definitely be good to like shop around for a consulting service. I would say using Adobe isn't always necessarily, because they're very like, they're not product agnostic. And so they're always trying to find solutions that will just fit within like the Adobe product. And I feel like it's a little like awkward to say that on here. I mean, obviously it's fine. Like I can be honest. They're great to work with, but I've also worked with a lot of different agencies. And I think the decision was made without like the team that's actually doing the work. And I think now we're doing most of the work in-house, using like the experts that we have on our own like internal IT team, which is I think a better move. So I think that if you don't have people in-house that are experts within, like if you have people who are experts in the different areas, I think you could all work together and like come up with a great solution. You don't have to have a consulting service if you need to go that route. I would say there's some really great consulting services out there who are product agnostic and can like really understand what's going to be the best solution for like your specific instance and like what you're doing.
Thanks.
Sure.
Monique, you mentioned too that you have a lot of feedback around that as well.
Yeah, hi everybody. I have not only have I used a consultant, I have a consultant that does all of my Fusion stuff just because I would not have time to do anything else if I was also handling that. But I've also been around for 10 years at this point. So I've met a lot of different companies that do consulting. I have friends at LeapPoint, other places, MSphere, etc. And like it's good to know what folks are good at, and it's okay to kind of shop around and be like, okay, you're really good at organization, but I'm going to use them. So like, don't feel like you have to be with one consultant and you're like cheating on them if you go elsewhere. That's not a thing. But also when it comes to Adobe, you're not always going to get the same person every time, which means especially if you're trying to grow your instance and like add more groups and things to it, anytime someone goes to Adobe, they're going to go back to you and be like, hey, can you teach us everything? And it's almost like you're starting from scratch. So if you are on like an enterprise-wide journey, going with a smaller, well, not smaller, but smaller than Adobe consultant that can help you with your instance is going to be easier because they actually like have those specific notes of like what your governance is, how things are set up, and you don't have to take the time out of your day to kind of take 3 hours to get them up to speed for them to even begin to start. So that's probably the biggest thing I would say about using consultants.
100,000% on that, because like I can't tell you how many times I customized my brand portal, which is the digital asset management tool, for the last decade, and I had to explain it to about 50 different Adobe reps like weekly. I was like, what is happening here? So so working with a smaller consultancy company is a definite benefit. Just to add more to that. I see that Alyssa and Tracy, you both have your hands up. I'm not sure. Joe, did you see who put their hand up?
Maybe Tracy, you want to kick us off?
Sure. So I wanted to address a few things. Sorry, I took a screen capture of your what I need help with, just so I can remember what you had. So I'll delete it if you want me to. In regards to maintenance and system hygiene, and actually governance, I wanted to address all those together. We actually brought a guy in back in January who was a consultant off the streets, and tasked him with putting together a Workfront governance project. And he just left about a month ago, but he did a great job with, starting top down with portfolios, projects, templates when you use them. He created this SharePoint site with all the information on it so that the admins, have a record of where the materials are, where the comments are, and what we need to do, not only or what we should do, right, in his point of view, not only what we should do from a hygiene standpoint, but also from, like how you should name portfolios, projects, et cetera. So bringing someone in who had experience like that has really helped us tremendously. He didn't get everything done. Unfortunately, he had to stop when we hit fields, custom, the fields and the forms. And so to me, that's a really big, important piece that's missing. Because we actually inherited Workfront from our internal creative agency. So there's a lot of cleanup to do. But I think that having a governance program, and building it out is very important, as well as, having a hygiene. And I have to look at his information, but he basically said on a quarterly basis, clean it up as best you can, get rid of the fields that you don't use anymore, et cetera. Portfolios, projects. My director's big on getting rid of stuff that should not be there, such as tests in the subject line, you know what I mean? So we have a lot of those. And then one thing I wanted to address, actually, before I get out of there, we had an Adobe consultant come in and look at our governance and provide us expert feedback on, what we're doing. And what's great about it was they could not poke holes in what the consultant was doing. He set up his projects perfectly, communicated perfectly, got buy-in from the Workfront governance admin committee of 5 of us. And so we were really happy with that he did such a good job on the Fusion side. We have a contractor at our company we have 2 people who are full-time Fusion workers. And they do nothing for the most part except for build Fusion scenarios for us so we can be as automated as possible. I worked on a custom form with them recently for our site marketing team. And it's not live yet, but it should be. But there is so much Fusion attached to it. My one fear is that if Fusion goes down or somebody updates Fusion with one of the, code pieces that, they built, that it's going to break, and we're not going to know about it until 24 hours later or something like that. But I'll tell you, we use Fusion tremendously at my company. And it's hard. And maybe Monique, you might know this, but at least the senior leaders here have found it's so hard to find people outside of our company, because we have nobody inside our company who knows Fusion, but it's really hard to find those people who know Fusion that well, because we've been trying to hire someone internally and we have not gotten there yet. So that's my take on that.
Thank you. I don't know. Oh, Alyssa, you have your hand up.
Hey, thanks. I wanted to mention a couple of things. One is I actually have been working with Adobe as the Fusion consultant and had a really excellent experience with, was assigned a specific dedicated Fusion consultant and had an amazing experience with each one. I'm now working with a new consultant because my previous consultant went on paternity leave, and but have really been able, they've been great about like teaching, learning, like we're learning together, we're process analyzing together, they're teaching me things. It's been really good, to the point where I do feel comfortable like fixing stuff in Fusion. I wouldn't want to stand up a scenario from scratch by myself because I don't have that level of JSON experience or coding, but it does feel like there is I think if anyone has some sort of background in software engineering, they would be probably fairly comfortable, especially if they know JSON, with Fusion and setting up Fusion. So maybe expanding that criteria, Tracy, might help you get somebody better. The other thing that we have in our org is we have work streams and marketing. We have a marketing collaborative group that is run by the woman, Amy Franz, who's our director, our vice president, and she brings together marketers and web developers and designers, and everybody's in the mix, project managers, and we all weigh in on the where we want to go with our roadmap and the limitations that we have as well. We also, as Jolyn knows, we've been, because we're all in Fidelity, we also have a COE, so we're and Virginia, sorry, we're constantly pinging each other, hey, is this a problem for you? And so networking, collaborating, that kind of stuff is, we have been finding the best way to get, to move our instance forward and not get too frustrated, because as we all know, frankly, Adobe cannot be relied on. So we do it ourselves and we enjoy it. So I guess you have to have the appetite for it as well. But it's there's definitely a new a level of, like, we're constantly having to consider other things on a daily basis to get us where we want to be. But never a dull moment.
We're actually in the middle of, so I work for Discover, and Discover was bought by Capital One. I think I mentioned that in the last meeting. And so I'm working with Adobe consultants right now. I have a meeting with them at 2:00 CST. I'm in Chicago, by the way. And we're going to go through, like, okay, what does Discover's Workfront instance look like today? So what they're going to do is they're going to come in and try to understand, well, they should understand, how to merge the two instances and to see, what makes sense to throw away, keep, or whatever. So this is going to be like a month-long endeavor with like, I believe 3 Adobe consultants trying to figure out, how to merge these two instances together without losing like data. So it'll be interesting for that month.
We've done a lot of customization, and I think as we use Fusion, that's actually, it's not a limitation, but we have been using, we need to find workarounds for some of the things that we're doing because of our level of customization. But I feel like Workfront, I'm so eager to get AI, to get some experience with AI. We haven't got that set up yet for us, but I'm hoping in the next month it will be. And then I'm really looking forward to seeing where we can take the instance after that's introduced.
I think that AI is something that obviously a lot of companies are interested in implementing. So that could be a topic of like maybe bringing in somebody to kind of go through a lot of the AI features, functionality. That could be something that we could do for one of our future events too. Jeffrey, I see your hand is up.
Yes, sorry. I don't know why my camera's not working. But Alicia, you brought up earlier about content supply chain, and we're enhancing our content supply chain as well. And I think you just can't tackle it all at once. I think we'd all agree with that. And what we've done is in financial services, we create quarterly, our product marketing team creates quarterly content about 500 pieces every quarter. And what we've done, we brought in planning earlier this year, Workfront Planning, to standardize our tables and metadata as well. So you don't have, and that's not only driving to custom forms. Tracy, I don't know if you use it that way, but it's also Fusion. When a product marketer drags 1 or 50 pieces of content into a Workfront project for ingestion, Fusion is triggered to distribute that based on the table, where that piece is supposed to go, whether it's onto the web in the right location in AMS, that's over to Seismic, into our marketing library as well, and update the standardized metadata. And there's tables in there with regards for expiration dates and everything else like that, and take away all those projects that were created to manually publish to Seismic, to the web, and all that. It's all done, and it all gets done in about 2 seconds, which is so cool. Q1 we ramped up to about 30%. Q2 was 60. We're going to be at 85 for Q3, and we'll try to get to as close to 100 for Q4 as well. But I think you've got to chunk away at it, is my suggestion, because if you do try to, lack of a better saying, boil the ocean all at once, it's going to be too much as well. And I don't know how many here are using planning as well. I know it's still relatively new, but it's definitely a way to standardize your metadata as well, and control it and be the source of truth in one location, and only have a select few people have access to it, be able to update it as well. Also, so I did want to, Alicia, I'd like to connect as well to see what else you're doing outside, as well, or in this forum as well, to see what else you're doing with regards to the content supply chain, because I know Adobe's been pushing the content supply chain for years, especially at Summit. You know what I mean? And and it's still the key word, and AI as well. The challenge we have on AI, in financial services, we have an AI governance board that needs to approve before we can use the AI assistant. And I'm assuming everybody else, depending on the scope of your industry, it's pretty much the same thing. So it's a little bit of frustrating on our end, because those of us that are system admins want to use it, but it needs to go through a whole process. And I think everybody's probably still trying to figure it out as well, the AI component, right?
Yeah. I mean, I know that's we had to go through, and like, I don't know if anybody was at the MegaWUG event, like literally we've had to go through so many hoops. We have like a whole, it's so hard to get it implemented. I think that once it is implemented, I can see how it's going to save. And it's also hard because we have multiple AI tools that we use as a company. And so it's like, how are we like picking and choosing like which ones we're going to use and which ones we're not going to use? Like, can they work together? It kind of, sometimes it's like causing more of a headache than it's like, is it worth it? Like, is it worth to use all these AI tools like for every little thing? But yeah, I would love to connect on content supply chain with you. It sounds like you guys are further along in the journey than we are. So yeah, that would be great.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome, everyone. This was really, really helpful. We are coming up on time, and I want to be respectful of, since we especially were gathering up over the lunch hour. So just want to quickly share a few of the other upcoming items. If I can get back to my... I did post the link in the chat. Alicia, maybe you can just grab it again if you scroll on up to the forum for folks to share again in the future. Would love to do the show and tell again, but like we said, I think bringing somebody in around AI would be really, really great, and would just help us all. And maybe we can do a little bit of show and tell around how we've worked getting some of the AI things through. I know some of my Fidelity friends here, we talked about the COE, and very lovingly, they went through the full governance process that meant that I didn't have to, but I was able to rely on them and their case that had gone through governance, and then submit my own, because our instances aren't tied together. But it saved me a lot of legwork. And I think there's probably some other tips like that, especially for larger organizations, where it's really just checking around to see who has already done what, because there may already be some work that you could take advantage of. And we've found, especially at Fidelity, that when we can rely on referencing back to those already in progress cases, that helps a lot with getting a faster approval. Because I very well could have seen a scenario where perhaps one got the okay and the other did not. Stuff like that happens somewhat frequently, unfortunately, where people don't always necessarily realize that we're going to use it in the same way, or that it's the same type of thing. So just a tip that I would maybe be able to add around that. But as you see on the screen, our next upcoming chapter event is actually on Wednesday this week. So if you have not already RSVP'd, you can scan the code on the screen and RSVP. We're doing one final count today of our numbers and getting them over to our friends over at Sip Cafe in Boston. We are going to gather from 4 to 6, just very social. We do not have to talk about our Workfront instances unless we really want to. But it looks like it's shaping up to be a really nice weekend here in the Northeast, and would love to see you all in person if you're able to join us. We will probably have another social event probably as we look towards the spring. But this will be our first. And I believe, Alicia, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're the first chapter to meet in person. That's what Julie told us anyway. So
yeah, I know that Becky, who is she works at Qualcomm too. She runs the San Diego chapter. I know she's planning one in San Diego, but that hasn't happened yet, so I don't think it has.
Beating them to the punch. Pretty excited.
Yeah.
So no, looking forward to it. And like I said, we'll do other in-persons. Lindsay's taking the afternoon off. Excellent. We can't wait to see you. I'm jumping out of the office a little early and gonna make the walk over. So looking forward to it. We'll have some snacks. We're still working through everything with our friends over at Sip Cafe, but it'll just be a good opportunity for us to all connect in person.
Just to add on to, originally we were going to look for a place in Back Bay, but this is not in Back Bay. It's still it's not that far away. It's pretty easy to get to, but just wanted to call that out, that I think that we did specifically call out Back Bay before, but this is not in Back Bay. But this is if you haven't been here, it has a little indoor, it has a little outdoor space. It's very nice. It's not a super crowded area. So yeah. And there will be some food provided and drink tickets too.
Yes, and it's looking like a cloudy 70 on Wednesday in Boston. Very excited. Still enjoying some of that late summer weather that September offers us. So, and there is parking right beneath if you are driving in. And if you are taking transit, or just a reference point, because I'm very bad at transit and traffic in Boston, it is like a 8-minute walk from South Station, 10-minute walk. So really not far at all. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to Alicia or myself ahead of that meeting on Wednesday. But looking forward to seeing you all. That, I think, wraps us all up. Thank you all for attending. Great to see you all as always. And we will see some of you later this week.
We'll see you Wednesday. Take care.
Cheers. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye.